Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for there being a few minutes late, but we are going to crack on with the 7th buildingSMART UK and Ireland Assemble event. This is an awards special as it's coinciding with the buildingSMART International Summit. The judges from the buildingSMART UK and Ireland chapter have been working very, very hard to score and mark a huge number of submissions. So we're looking to show their favourites. Not all of them have made it to being finalists. Some of them did, but the favourites will be on show today. So before we get on to that, some housekeeping. We'll try and keep to time today. If you do have any questions, please use the questions feature in the sidebar. Pam will be fielding those and then relaying them back to us, and we can answer those questions as we go. So we'll crack on with the presentation itself. This is me, as usual, doing my things with various different organisations. There's nothing more new in there. In terms of what we are as a chapter and the organisation, we have the UK BIM Alliance org chart. So for those of you who are new to the Assemble events, it's important to understand where buildingSMART UK and Ireland fit within the UK BIM Alliance. And effectively, we are a work stream within the UK BIM Alliance. So buildingSMART UK and I have a separate group of people that do overlap with the UK BIM Alliance operations, but we are the ones focused on maintaining the day-to-day operation of the chapter and coordinating with the international team and bringing their news to you guys, and also working the other way, taking your requirements up to an international level. Obviously, we're still governed by the same governance that the UK BIM Alliance are set to, with Syria being the legal entity. And then we have our UK BIM Alliance communities and our outreach program that ultimately reaches far and wide out into the whole built environment sector. In terms of key people, we do have a significant number of people, more than we did a few years ago. It's been a long summer break, so people have been relaxing, having a well overdue rest and relax, but we're getting back onto things now that started with the judging process for the awards. But if you need to contact any of us, please feel free to do so, either via the chat today, or you can find us through the LinkedIn page or through the Twitter account, or just Google us and find us and contact us in any way you need to. It's important that we reiterate each of these events our 4 V's, which are the aims of the buildingSMART UK and Ireland chapter, to ensure that we're vast, covering the whole of the UK and Ireland. We're vibrant, we're active, we're doing what we should do in the right forums with the right people. We're vital, that we are making sure that we are producing and communicating the right things for you guys to do your daily work and to improve the way you work. And valuable. We want to make sure the chapter has some resilience and is valuable to the industry, making sure we're communicating all the right things to you guys, and vice versa back up to buildingSMART International. So we're that connection, that link to international operations. In terms of ongoing and upcoming projects, we have the UK and Ireland Professional Certification, and if you join the UK BIM Alliance Forum, you will learn a little bit more about the professional certification later on this afternoon. We are looking to set up an ISO 19650 global working group within the buildingSMART international chapters, so that the international chapters can learn more from the UK implementation of ISO 19650. The website pages on the UK BIM Alliance website are underway, ready for my review and approval, so they'll be hopefully done very, very soon. UK specific handover requirements in terms of information delivery specifications. If there are any people out there with certain use cases that we need to escalate through the buildingSMART system to create information delivery specifications, get in touch with us. We know there's lots of use cases. You'll see some of them in the awards highlights later. And if there are things that you want to be able to do with IFC, with Kobe, then let us know and we can make those things happen. We have input into various different reports and working groups in terms of the building safety case, the golden thread, and the Hackett report, and the things that go along with those, and the various drafts of standards that we need to comment on. We've got these buildingSMART UK and Ireland Assemble events, and we are looking to ramp up our engagement with members at company and individual level. So look out for more communications coming out the rest of this year. Just want a quick slide on the importance of now. It seems that the demand is growing. It is very much here and there. The draft Building Safety Bill was launched a few months ago, and there's huge amounts of work that needs to be done for open BIM and interoperability to make sure that we can enable that data to be provided in the way that is required. The Transforming Infrastructure Performance Roadmap was published, I think it was 3 weeks ago now, which has a very useful updated information management mandate in it, which I'll go on to in a minute. Later this year, we have COP26, where the world's powers come together to talk about climate change and how we're going to deal with it. We all know, I think, that if we're going to have any chance of doing that, we need to work with digital and data to make sure that can happen. And then the ongoing discussion around digital twins and how we can engage with that at various different stages through various different use cases. So absolutely on the agenda almost everywhere. Talking about the information management mandate, if you go to the government website, you can read the HTML version or you can read the PDF version that was on the previous screen. That's the Transforming Infrastructure Performance Roadmap. In there is Annex B, which is the updated UK information management mandate. And very helpfully, there is a focus on the work we've been doing in terms of interoperability and basically reinforcing the fact that interoperability is key to the success of the TIP. Right, okay, having whizzed through that, we're now on to me introducing the awards side of this session. The buildingSMART Awards Programme is there. The entries closed, I think, in May. Throughout July, the judging was done. There are 8 categories. There are 130 submissions in total, 22 finalists, 16 countries. But unfortunately, this year, despite having 2 winners, or winners in the past 2 years, there are no finalists from the UK or Ireland this year. The winners will be announced on the 7th of October at 1 PM. And we'll try and find the details about how you can log into that, but it is apparently free to join. And publicly available. So we'll find the details of that and share them with you throughout media channels. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Mia for the first of the judges' favourites.
Thank you, Casey. Hi, everyone. I'm going to present the design and construction category today. I'm going to talk about my favorite 3 submissions. So if we jump directly into the first project here. This is the Santiago Bernabeu stadium, and I'm not sure why the text isn't coming up. It's a bit weird. Right, okay. So this is an existing stadium in Madrid for the famous Real Madrid club, and it's undergoing a major transformation, which is part of a renovation project. And the main objective here is to ensure that the arena continues to be a global benchmark within the worlds of sports and architecture. So it's a refurbishment project that includes a new facade with a retractable roof, 360 video scoreboard, and mainly an expansion of the stadium to the wider, like, urban setting in which it sits. Obviously here, the open BIM technology and the collaborative approach is an obvious asset to the project, which I'm going to cover in just a second. So I just wanted to say that this is one of the best practice examples of open BIM, and it's a great project that demonstrates the use of open BIM to facilitate and optimize information exchange. So it's a good example in application of technology in practice. And I'm going to stress on the information exchange bit. So just to give you a bit of an overview, so that renovation work will really, like, strategically places the project as a state-of-the-art arena that satisfies the demand of the club members while also increasing the club's revenue streams. It's a mixed-use project as well, that as it is a stadium. So you can see here in the project information in summary that more than 50 companies were working in design and build, and of the many features, the objectives was also to have that refurbishment, placing the arena as a global benchmark. Moving on to the BIM, the open BIM use. In here, we had the BCF schema and as well as the IFC 2.3. The strategic alignment really focused on the information exchange and coordination, while having obviously a properly organized and accessible CDE. Mainly the use of open BIM here was to demonstrate and achieve interoperability, the ability of exchange to exchange information between different platforms, collaboration as well. So the use of standardized procedures and norms that facilitate the exchange of information, as well as reliability and flexibility. So really looking at the quality processes that guarantee a correct exchange of information. In here, talking about the BCF schema, this really allowed a proper coordination between all the companies, and that was achieved through BIM Collab. So that was the main platform that allowed them to cover the project complexity. The main challenge of the project was also the complex fragmentation of the model's issues, as well as to assign responsibilities to certain part of the team and to notify those involved in the resolution of an issue or to reassign responsibility. So thanks to BIM Collab, they were able to coordinate and conduct clash detections as well, as a main process. That was also another key to the success of the development of the renovation project. So really all that facilitated traceability and communication between the disciplines. And to take that a bit further, they would have liked to implement that as a digital twin, but obviously this was not really covered in that specific project. But I think the main motivation was to take that, the standards and the application of technology to be able to further implement that as a digital twin. So as such, the project not only acts as a landmark for Madrid, but also as a digital example for better coordination. I think we can move on to the second project. And this is the IFC rail project. It's a project in Basel, Switzerland. It's obviously a civil and a rail infrastructure project. The main open BIM use was IFC 2.3, IFC BCF, and MPG XML. This is a small, relatively small, low-budget project, but as part of a renewal network, which has a construction budget as much as 500 million Swiss francs per year. So that's approximately 400 million pounds per year. So it has a giant leap for BIM in railways. Obviously, the way BIM operates for rail projects is slightly different than construction projects. In here, the main objectives were to implement BIM to improve communication among stakeholders and increase the quality of design. So really using BIM for faster and more accurate determination of quantities during the planning phase. As such, they were able to enable a paper-free construction site and feedback the execution information back into the model. I want to stress here on the 4D and 5D planning process to automatically generate mass extracts to directly store cost parameters for a cost estimation. They also use some modeling, like some object libraries, in order to save time and costs. Talking a bit more about the project here, the aim is to define measures for future projects in rail. So different contents of the BIM methods were implemented and tested throughout the construction project and the rail project and the execution. So this happened during COVID, so they were forced to all collaborate digitally, especially in the planning, in the planning process. And the BIM methodology simplified the communication across the team for them. In here, each activity had a temporal beginning and an end, and each of those activities can be specified with a performance attribute and stored with prices and costs, which is where the 5D planning comes into question. So in terms of the strategic alignment, I think here BIM pilot projects focus on the promotion and testing of BIM fields of actions in order to train the people involved in the project. So really, as far as possible, the objects from IFC4, for example, were used, and as well as the BCF schema and the MVD. In here, all of those different formats allowed, on the one hand, for the exchange between modeling and cost planning, and on the other hand, the model was checked on the collaboration platform by external auditors. And I think the main benefits of using OpenBIM here is mainly the IFC format that allowed an adaptable model structure based on the construction process, making use of all the IFC GUID for all the objects. And so as such, the project information could be read in different software. And here, the specially developed modeling guidelines for railway infrastructure project really enabled flexible costs and schedule planning based on the construction cost breakdown structure. So in here also, the same model can be easily used for the creation of bill of quantities when calculating, for instance, the contractor's cost. Obviously, it's also a benefit for the tracing of dates and quantities throughout all the project phases with a transparent exchange of project information. I think I can move on to the third project. And this is an industrial project that happened in Singapore, Woodlands Regional Center in North Avenue. So this is a great example of a project where data is centralized and streamlined with an OpenBIM compliant common data environment, CDE. And the technical work was very well articulated. I think it was a brilliant example on the democratization of data across the construction supply chain and amongst stakeholders. I don't think it was so much of an innovative or creative input, but rather really an example for a common use of BIM to follow in the industry. Since they very well articulated how to deliver OpenBIM as best practice to outperform clients' vision and objects. So I'm just going to talk a bit more about that project. Basically, the objective is to have two new buildings, providing a total floor area of over 88,000 square meters for the next generation of manufacturing industries. And it's one of the first few industrial buildings in that area that would meet the Green Mark Platinum certification, which is a sustainability rating achievable. Talking about the project description in general, so we've got industrial buildings that were developed by Jurong Town Corporation in the Woodlands, North Coast, Singapore. And the total construction cost was about more than 108 million pounds for the two buildings. So really, the main vision here is to see those buildings as highly adaptable and technology-driven buildings, while stressing on the environmental and sustainability creative design. And obviously an integrated digital project delivery. So as a design bid build project, the virtual design and construction were integrated across all the project stages from inception to building user interface. And the adoption of integrated digital delivery allowed a spectrum of benefits ranging from cost optimization to administrative productivity to worksite safety. And you can see some of the benefits illustrated in here. They used Fulcrum as the main CDE, and that allowed for a 35% reduction in tender clarifications, more than 1,000 man-hour savings due to seamless handover of BIM models from design to building users, as well as a full automation in precast components, monitoring and tracking using barcode scanning, with many reductions and cost savings overall. All of that facilitated an uninterrupted handover to the client facility management team with asset tagging in BIM and COBie format data export. So all of that really at the design stage allowed for a seamless design coordination across disciplines, a coordinated project drawings amongst different disciplines, the development of design for safety guides and reports, but also like value engineering analysis for a detailed cost estimate. At a construction stage, the BIM-based logistics planning for precast concrete construction using Trimble Connect, and also an integrated concurrent engineering sessions between the clients, consultants, and contractors for construction coordination in Fulcrum as well. But also a 4D animated video for construction scheduling, visual understanding of constraints and safety, really an integration of the 3D BIM model to 5D costs for monthly progress claims and payments. I think in terms of the strategic alignment of the overall project, they wanted to give the client a clearer understanding of their building and spaces, also improving accuracy and efficiency of the construction drawing production, and also improving on-site productivity and coordination. And all of that to leverage the relationship between BIM and asset management. I think I will conclude this here and leave the floor open to Lawrence. And if there are any questions, we can answer them, I think, in a bit.
Can you click through the slides, please? Can you click on the next slide, Mia? Thanks. Yeah, okay, so I really sort of love this project at the moment. This is a school, a 3-building primary school in Poland. Obviously, here in the UK, we had a very successful building for schools program, but I think for me this took you know, through open BIM standards, this took things to the new level. It really did highlight the importance of how multiple different project partners all working on on a similar platform, common vision around using IFC and exchanging information. It was not just for the main structure, but the complete earthworks modelling, the coordination, all the quantity takeoff was all driven by models. The progress reporting was driven by IFC, and so the scheduling and cost control was doing it. Each different discipline had their own had clearly defined model view definitions. I thought this was great work done up front here. And BCF, or BIM collaboration format, was a key to actually driving issues and resolution of issues throughout the project. So the success of the project to me was the adoption of open BIM standards right the way across the thing. Benefits were clear. The benefits of the project were clearly linked to the use of IFC. So from the outset, that was a really good submission. There was a massive reduction in the reduction of rework. As I said before, the quantity takeoffs made significant price agreements with subcontractors. All the quantities or subcontract payments were all driven from the IFC model, and yeah, certainly things like the faster verification of materials. We have real issue here, you know, especially around post-Grenfell, about the verification of materials on sites. Really here demonstrates how IFC is a real enabler for that. So that's a big win for me. And so all financial settlements for the subcontractors were also based on quantities from the IC models. Yeah, thanks, Mickey. Next slide, please. This project was a bridge that was the Ransalva Bridge in Norway, and for me this is a complete game changer in the way that digital construction can really be changed from the traditional forms of design and construction. This is a 634-metre bridge, but there wasn't a single drawing used in either design or construction. The whole design and construction was based on three-dimensional models. Everyone on site was given a tablet to navigate the models, record any non-conformances, raise any RFIs. Was purely done absolutely digitally from front to the bottom. So 90% of information was transferred between was done through IFC. There was over 250,000 IFC structures, object models. The complete rebar schedule was all driven through IFC models, and even each of the rebar elements were taken off from the model and put straight into the rebar bending machine. So everything was cut and modeled directly from the IFC model. So there's yeah, so effectively BCF files were used by the third-party control multidisciplinary controls. So right the way through top to bottom of the project, everyone was using was IFC. So effectively this was a proof of concept by the Norwegian government to prove that this type of project could enable, and following this success of this, Norwegian government were actually are likely to roll this out and almost, you know, use this as de facto standard going forward. So I think, you know, this to me project, you know, really was a digital enabler for, you know, not just the Norwegian government, but everyone seeing it around it, you know, around the world should take note of this project to see how it can potentially done. Yeah, thanks, Mandy. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a massive project. This is a high-speed rail line from Beijing to Zhangjiakou. This is where the Winter Olympics in Beijing is going to be held. So this is one of the first 350-kilometre high-speed rail lines that's going to be built in a highly cold, windy environment. Even just the technical obstacles that need to become of building anything is still, in this colder environment, is tremendous, let alone having to run a high-speed train with all the stresses and strains on it as well. So yeah, this project really sort of shone out because, you know, I'm currently working on the HS2 project, and this to me takes the development of IFC and Open BIM to the next level, and it's a real driver, you know, for me and the HS2 team of how we can actually get up and achieve some of the same level of expertise that was driven on this project. Interestingly enough, the whole project's been used around the ISO 19650 standard, which I, you know, thought was a great adoption of how the international community are actually, you know, developing and adopting the standards that was used here. So yeah, there was actually a huge amount of data that was created and transferred. I think the development of some of the IFC standards, yeah, the China Rail Construction Consortium have really added to the IFC rail domain. So where there hasn't been elements done that, they've actually enhanced the IFC rail schema off the back of their own needs. So again, greater sharing and collaboration across the world on this. Yeah, so also there did a lot of work on the cross coordination between IFC and City GML it means that both the BIM and the GIS systems were fully coordinated with each other. That was again a massive amount of savings in labour. Okay, I'll wrap it up there and hand over.
Thanks, Lawrence. Just before I go on, you did incredibly well there. I don't think I could have followed on from Mia, who did a sterling job of presenting on those awards. Thanks, Emma. If you move us on a slide. I think hopefully what you'll see from all of our little snippets of these awards is that they are extensive capabilities in digital design, construction and engineering are going into a vast array of projects across the globe. And we've seen, we can only share with you a fraction of what we've seen. Each submission is over 5,000 words, a series of presentations, videos, even copies of the models in IFC. We've had to review all of that and try and give you a derivative. So please, if you do want to know more, get in touch with us. Some of my favourite awards, as you'd expect, I'm a highways engineer, so I had to pick out one of those. This is from a fantastic client in Norway, the Norwegian Road Authority, or their derivative building, hundreds of kilometres of motorway, Nivea. This is their E6 Kval to Melhus, only 7 kilometres, 76 million pounds, number of structures and culverts and environmental features as you'd expect, but driven by the client, who came over to the UK a number of years ago to look at the way in which we were approaching BIM, using IFC for exchange, using BCF to communicate about clashes and RFIs, using LandXML for terrain so that it enables machine control, using Co-class from Sweden as their classification. They benefit from a number of automations and digital initiatives which are founded on IFC, founded on our schema that we know so love and well. Automated, as Lawrence spoke about the bridge, again similar here, a number of improvements, a number of productivity initiatives leading to beneficial delivery of the project. Use of parametric modeling in, through and with IFC, using really benefiting from integrated CDE, using a number of different systems. And throughout the awards, we saw a number of different approaches to an ecosystem of systems, bringing together the designs and the models for each job. As I say, the client has insisted on an open approach in Nivea, and they're benefiting from a clear handover path from design into construction into handover. Thank you, Emma. Can you move us on one? Again, we go from one end of the globe to another, from Norway to Australia, not Australia's own Crossrail by the look of it. So down in Brisbane, 10 kilometres of new rail line, with almost 6 of that in twin-bore tunnel. It's not quite as much as Crossrail, but only slight, there's about half. Again, a significant investment in new infrastructure going into Australia, and again they've benefited from the use of IFC for file exchange across a significant ecosystem of systems that have delivered this job. Again, size and scale of this almost boggles the mind in terms of how many elements are being modeled, yet they can deliver a standardized approach to deliverables, a standardized approach to information capture. I think something I'm always striving for is greater transparency with our clients and through the contractors to the progress that we're making. That is all coming through via data, via digital means, and again building in asset information from the outset. Again, because of the open and interoperable benefits that they're finding, producing, being able to move 3D geometry through those systems is assuring the teams of a reduction in data loss than they would more commonly have had. As I said, enabling improved coordination between a number of different parties to this scheme, and getting benefits in terms of programming, planning, cost estimation from the outset. Emma, thank you. Go on to the next one. So the categories that we have for the awards fit into the project lifecycle as you'd expect, from design to construction, into handover, asset management, facilities management, but also some research that Nick will show later on. Again, down in New Zealand, a absolutely huge office and distribution center complex adjacent to the airport. And again, from my memory, the airport operator and its surrounds really are driving the approach to Open BIM throughout. So you have a very informed and knowledgeable client driving the supply chain to work and use Open BIM for their benefit over the long term in terms of handover, but of course also throughout the rest of the life cycle. Again, IFC 2, 3 and 4 used in this instance, and BCF for the communication between all parties for clashes and RFIs and TQs. OmniClass used as a classification system this time around, the American-based classification, and they benefited again from not the client demanding file exchange in IFC. Proved beneficial for the supply chain that they weren't required to move to single proprietary system. Essentially, they could retain the software of their preference for their production methodologies. They didn't have to address any shortfalls in terms of capability or skills within their teams. They had it all. In fact, they essentially won the tender and the work on the schemes by the mere fact that they were able to deliver open, interoperable data rather than through the use and delivery of a particular proprietary brand of software. This engaged and enabled smaller firms to work within smaller and local firms to work on the project, and as I say, they reduced their need to reinvest in different software and training of their people. The approach on this was to create a number of bespoke property sets for the project to enable handover, but those were set out very early doors at the inception of design, which flowed through to construction and handover and enabled consumption by the client's asset management systems. Again, because of the approach, they found that the tenants of the buildings have an easier opportunity to make amends and to carry that data forward into their processes for managing the facilities, because of the open and interoperable nature of IFC. Model review process was streamlined, as you'd expect. Again, this one had 4D and 5D through construction, which was a submission last year, but it's great to see this project evolves and is worthy of repeated praise because of the work they've done, really carrying through the spirit of Open BIM throughout the life cycle. And as mentioned, because of that forethought into specifying Open BIM, the client is now benefiting from that golden thread, pushing data into their asset management systems. Thank you, Emma. Next one. And again, asset management. Fascinating project this, because this is not nothing to do with design and build. This is the digitalization of an existing railway line in Campania, Italy. Extensive amounts of infrastructure. And what it really demonstrates to me is that with the right systems and processes in place, we have the ability to not just capture survey, but make that survey into intelligent information in a consistent and structured form, which we can then make as the baseline for any work in and around a digital twin, or purely just even an asset management system. The process here used photogrammetry and laser scanning extensively along 40, nearly 50 kilometers worth of single track line through the mountains of Italy, and then combined with a content library, a product library of components like overhead line catenary, signals, and other infrastructure associated with the railway. They use parametric modeling technologies and techniques to overlay and compare and contrast scans, photogrammetry, and models to bring that all together. Pulled in asset data where available from existing geospatial asset management systems, and again then provided all of that information in a browser, both combining model and photogrammetry and laser scan in one single browser-based viewer. What to say about this? You absolutely could clearly see the benefits of improved information gathering and sharing and dissemination and use for the asset manager. Consistency of information because of the IFC schema-based product library. Interoperability benefited, of course, as you'd expect, because of IFC through the different systems software used. The single environment, again, giving a benefit to all users and bringing the entry level for the stakeholders to a lower point. And they were able to improve their verification processes of the assets that they found through the surveys, again by sharing, disseminating the model through the platform. You can see there. Thank you, Emma. I'll go on to the next one, my last one, I think. Again, the digital twin concept is all the rage at the moment. For me, this one was a fascinating example of how even through facilities management, there is the opportunity to improve the assets that we may already have, to analyze them and understand them better, to use Internet of Things sensor technology within the building, combined with a robust data schema, file format, to give a visualization of actual performance against the baseline, against that which was expected within the design, and then to project where in the asset, where in the building might we be suffering from a performance gap. So Siemens were the lead organization here. I think it's one of their office establishments in Switzerland. Essentially captured the design in IFC, verified that through surveys of the building, and then combined, as I said, the use of the sensors within the building and the IFC schema to collate and bring all of that data together to give a visualization on the performance, but to also give it in terms of a breakdown of the structure using IFC space and the logical breakdown of a structure that we have in IFC. These guys credited IFC with being the glue that brought this all together. All the existing technologies were there, but it really was the common data schema that IFC provides which brought that all together. Emma, I think I'm done. Yes. Nick, over to you.
Yep. Okay. I've got a slightly harder task than the previous speakers because there are two research categories, professional research and student research. And I'll say a little bit about 3 professional research items and 2 student things, but please don't expect the graphics to be as dramatic as some of the buildings we've just been and infrastructure projects that we've just been looking at. So next. The first one is a project about the automatic generations of MVDs, in other words, model view definitions, requirements definitions, by linking IDM and BSDD. Immediately, we're in acronym soup here. But the interesting thing was that they introduced the research with this project control room and illustrated it with the idea that we need to monitor our projects and understand the quality and control the quality of the information that's flowing into them, and that just as much as the monitoring of the site, we need to monitor the information. In detail, on the next slide, the process is about joining existing buildingSMART standards together. The IDM is about designing the or reviewing and examining and understanding the processes in our industry. The existing standard is part 1, and there's a part 3 for its electronic or interoperable representation. Then calling on the buildingSMART data dictionary, which of course follows an ISO standard, as the resource that makes sense of the concepts that have turned up in the IDM and can connect them to choosing the IFC elements that are relevant, and then automatically generating the rule sets which will actually allow that testing to take place. So no pretty pictures. A very simple aim is to start using the standards together. And I think that's probably what really caught my eye, was that the links that we always believed would appear, people are now starting to exploit them, and so on. Okay, the next project was a little bit more visual. Bimbe structural health monitoring for historic timber buildings. And what this was looking at is the historic temple structures in China, and making sure that the sensing network could be used to update an IFC model of the structure, and then making sure that that IFC model could be visualized so that the building could be monitored for movement, either gradual movement or earthquake damage, and so on. And so it's an investigation into some of the basics of the digital twin idea, but done particularly well and quite graphically. So on the next slide, you can see on the right screenshots of all the different things they were doing. You can see there's an IFC viewer involved with a lot of annotation. You can see at the bottom that the sensors are monitoring the movement of the structure continuously, and you can see around it that there are all sorts of property and activity displays, all derived from the system. Of course, on the left-hand side, you can see a diagram that shows how they joined it all together. And you can see the importance of the GUIDs to link the real sensors, each of which has to be identified as to where it is, with the equivalent IFC sensor in the model, against which you could store the parameters and the differences that were being detected. And of course, the main purpose was to generate potential or to look for alert events that needed a real reaction. So I think this combination is the start of, and you know, it's another aspect of the digital twin, but actually saying that you can't monitor things unless you've got some sense of an IFC model to compare it against and to give it meaning. A problem that I found when working on hospitals in the UK, that there was no sense of place or in the differences between the different sensors. Okay, the next submission is really joining BIM with blockchain. And I think that's a topic that's come up from various times, that blockchain offers guaranteed secure versioning. And so this came from Hong Kong University, but they were responding to a real problem, and it was a problem caused by COVID-19, which makes it particularly topical. That buildings were being designed and constructed in Hong Kong, but the manufacturing of the parts was happening in mainland China. And with COVID-19, the traditional inspections were no longer possible. Travel was prevented. And so on the next slide, you can see a process that starts with, at the top, with the design process, commercial BIM tools, but moves through IFC, IFC JSON, which is in development, and then exploiting the hierarchy in IFC to spot differences between versions of the IFC file and to store those differences progressively as part of a smart contract, which was which was then held in a blockchain repository. So why would you do all that? Well, this was a real-life, sizable, modular integrated construction project in Hong Kong, and with what they call border restraints and quarantine policies. They needed some way of communicating progress on the development of these modules. And the answer was to use IFC deliverables as contractual documents. And so for material provenance and quality assurance, the information about the composition of the modules was stored in IFC, and and when situations when inspecting wasn't possible, the IFC was taken as a surrogate, I guess. So I think that this is exciting in two senses. One is the idea of differential transaction calculations. That sounds very technical. I think it is, but essentially to allow focus on the changes to an IFC file progressively, and saying that that is the contractual evidence that needs to be stored in blockchain. Okay, and then the last piece of research. Oh, sorry, two more. I do apologize. Okay, and the next, this is student research, and so we might not expect it to be quite the same sophistication. I'm not sure that the difference between professional and student research is very well defined, in that many of you'll see that some of this work happens in the context of the leading universities, like Technical University of Munich. But if we look at the next one, the student work here was to look at detailed visualization of a building and the connection using both sensors and actuators to connect the virtual building with the real building through an interface. So on the left, you can see a representation of an energy meter. On the right, you can see a report from the monitoring, the BMS system for that building, of the state of the different circuits in that building. And on the next slide, you can see a still from one of the movie they produced, which I wish I could show you. Essentially, you could see people altering the switches in real life, and the BIM model was automatically updated and the state of the switch is shown. Equally, you could click on the BIM model and change the state of the of various switching circuits as well. So it demonstrated that two-way link, and with a very plausible user interface, which I think builds upon the strength of the Italian IFC implementations, which we've seen at many of the awards and presentations over the last few years. So yeah, I think the other thing that struck me was that the student had made a movie to really convey what they'd achieved, and I thought that was above and beyond what you would expect from a research submission. Okay, and then my last item, the IFC Infra Toolkit. Again, this is one which is a bit abstract. The Technical University of Munich has been heavily involved in the development of IFC 4.3, and in particular the road and rail extensions. So this student has been working on tools, including Dynamo interfaces, to connect the new modeling tools with the new schema, to generate the test cases that have been used in the last year to validate the 4.3 package. So on the next slide, yeah, it's a bit of infrastructure seen in BIM Vision, but behind it is the implementation of the 4.3 toolkit and a set of processes to analyze and break down structures and generate the 4.3 sample files. On the right, you can see that we no longer have to talk about, oh, excuse me a moment. That shouldn't be happening. Right, let me go back. So yes, on the right, you can see that we no longer have to talk about IFC building. In this case, the site contains an IFC bridge, and that contains facility parts, which are then broken down further into the IFC road objects, and so on and so forth. Okay, so students' research effort, filling in the gaps, exploring the implications, all building upon the fact that they can rely on the IFC as being the best possible representation, the best possible vehicle for their work. I know one or two of you have asked if the material will be available. The first thing to say, or is to reiterate, is that on Thursday, October the 7th, the awards will be 1 o'clock. And that will be an open stream from the buildingSMART virtual summit. Many of the candidates will be speaking about their work and presenting it to the final judges over the next 10 days. And the other process that is that all the candidates for the awards, not all the candidates, the finalists, will be turned into use cases and published over the next few months. And indeed, if you go to buildingSMART website, you can see case studies from last year's winners. For the first time this year, we have asked the finalists to submit BCF files or IFC files as evidence. We are not publishing them. That would have created all sorts of commercial issues for the commercial for the live design, construction, and handover projects. They're submitted for the judges' scrutiny, and increasingly we will be turning to the actual files rather than the material that people present, or giving equal ranking to those. But the judges are very sensitive to the quality of the submissions, and substantial numbers of awards submissions are weaned out. And so I hope you found these interesting. Okay, what's happened? Okay,
Thanks,
over
Nick.
to, sorry, yeah, over
Yeah,
to
it's Marek
Marek.
now.
Yeah.
Hello, hopefully. Please, can you confirm if you can see my presentation, Emma?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, apologies for mine not being in the deck. I had a reason for being a bit late today. So I'll be on the last and hopefully not least summary of awards categories, in this case technology. There were 18 entries, which was quite a substantial number to go through, because those who aren't familiar, it takes a good half an hour to actually go through each entry, because we do need to scrutinize them and go through all the details they've submitted. Great to see an international mix of entrants, including some from the UK and Ireland chapter. There was quite a few proof of concept, so not everything was something that was necessarily being used in anger on the project, but really trying out an illustration of an IFC-based workflow. However, some were market ready and already released, so it's good to see that the community is really not just seeing if IFC could do something, but actually promoting it as a solution that could be adopted. I've just selected half a dozen, and I will go through them quite quickly. So here's one which I picked from Norway, which I think David alluded to, one from the Norwegian Highways Authority. This is from Statsbygg, their buildings agency. Again, showing how many owners, and the Nordics are very strong in this, are being committed to pushing IFC into their deliverables. And this is an interesting example where they've, I hope, followed the same logic that we did through our own BIM Level 2 program, and obviously in ISO 19650, where you check against your requirements. So this Symba solution that they've developed is really there to codify the requirements, and then be able to check through an IFC deliverable that the requirements are being met at the phases of the handover from their suppliers. This next one I picked specifically because it's a UK example from Cadline, now called Symmetry, and they've developed something that's really quite interesting, which is actually a tool for building energy modeling. So it can consume IFC full files from whichever modeling package you prefer, that can generate IFC4, and then process that into a BEM, and then apply SIBZ heating and cooling loads, and then write back those loads into the attributes of the IFC. This to me is a really good illustration of how IFC can be used in a really important workflow, and it's available now as a solution. So if you are interested, please go to Cadline's own website and look up SIMAP, because to me this was one of the most interesting examples of something that is, let's say, near market ready. I think it's still a slight work in progress, and they're enhancing it. Another one here which I've included because it's a UK and Ireland submission, and from Sean O'Keefe, who has, I believe, presented at previous UK and Ireland buildingSMART sessions, and I think last year he was also a shortlisted candidate. In this case, this tool or solution called OpenOp, it's really a workflow to capture telecommunications assets using a number of survey methods, including laser scans, drones, and like manual surveying, and then to model it and then apply that data in use, because this is an illustration of where existing assets probably don't have good data, and how can we speed up the process Well, this open op philosophy illustrates that, yeah, we can actually generate good models of existing assets and in this case capture them in an IFC format and create COBie files as a way to manage extended attribution. I'm now going to the last three, and I've picked these last three because these are the shortlisted three candidates for the technology category. This one I really like. However, it's not a fantastic IFC use case simply because it uses IFC 4 as the framework for holding model data, but it's a really interesting illustration of an extended workflow where, based on field-based photos to be photogrammetrically processed, they are able to generate a 3D mesh model specifically of legacy bridges. So again, coming back to as with the previous example from BIM and Scan, this is looking at analyzing existing assets, running the mesh as a surface that can then be analyzed with effectively an AI-driven solution that this Vienna consulting engineers company has developed, which I think is the core of their Struck Inspect tool. And this tool will actually then automatically highlight polygon areas of defects. So it can understand if there are cracks or maybe rust leakage or some other known defects within bridge abutments, decks, and so forth. And then it writes back those polygons as 3D coordinates in the IFC4 file. And also associates extended attributes, such as what type of defect is believed to be identified, plus a link to the original photos that were used to create the photogrammetric 3D mesh. A really nice example of a very useful workflow. There was actually also one other similar bridge inspection, but this one was the one that I think most people realized was best developed. This is from Akka Software, an Italian software house who have gotten a quite wide toolkit of solutions, and I think they're the only vendor I know that can actually read and write natively in IFC, which, you know, full credit to them. And they've developed this thing called USBIM.IDS that is really very much a proof of concept around the information delivery specification that buildingSMART is developing. So this has not been published or finalized, but again, much like the Simba example at the beginning, it's all about requirements definition and then verification that those requirements have been met during the life cycle of the project and hopefully into the operation of the asset, because they're capturing them against the IDS. So the IDS is the way to generate the requirement spec, and then as the project delivers models in IFC, they can be checked and verified that they are meeting the requirements by phase and discipline. And I will move on to my last example, which I will not hide from the fact that this is absolutely my favorite, because it has the potential for the most significant impact for IFC rollout that I've seen anywhere. And that's by the Open Design Alliance, ODA, who have developed their IFC software development kit very robustly. They've been very deeply involved in the development of IFC 4.3 for infrastructure. And they've added other tools, such as the ability to convert to formats like DWG for use in downstream software. But their toolkit has now been adopted by a number of important software vendors, not least my own company, Autodesk. And if you are a Revit user, in literally the last couple of days, the Revit 2022.1 has been released, and this has now been a transition to use the ODA software development kit, and it allows a more enhanced and rapid consumption of IFC into Revit, but also export. And we have also got support for beta IFC 4.3 implementation. So those who are interested in testing IFC 4.3, it's already available in Revit. Revit won't understand what the elements necessarily are because they may be infrastructure elements, but this shows a direction of travel. And I believe Bentley and a couple of other software companies have also moved to using the ODA software development kit. And hopefully you appreciate why I feel very strongly that this is an excellent example of something that could have a long-lasting and deep impact into the rollout of IFC for use in industry, and also credit to ODA. They are, as I said, investing a lot of effort in developing their toolkit, so it will hopefully be kept up to date, and software vendors who are using it can also just update their library solutions from ODA and really get the best performance and reliability out of IFC in and out. And that's my final slide. So I can now need to work out how to stop presenting. I think, have you taken it off of me, Emma? Yes, you have.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Marek. Right then, everyone, we've come to the end of this event. I just want to say a huge thank you to all the judges. Judging these awards is no mean feat. It does take a lot of work to go through all the submissions, and what we wanted to do today was just to highlight some of those favourite ones and to kind of show what's being done out there, you know, what the rest of the world are doing in terms of Open BIM, because there is some really good stuff happening. And next year we want to see some more UK and Irish entries. We would, you know, there wasn't many this year, and as Casey said, there was no finalists. So we really want to have a push for next year. So if there is anything in terms of how we can help, you know, if there are any blockers out there, or you know, the reasons why people aren't adopting Open BIM or shouting about it here in the UK and Ireland, you know, contact us and let us know so we can help. And I just wanted to end with talking about the virtual summit for buildingSMART International, which is actually happening right now over the next couple of weeks. And if you actually go to the register page on the website, yes, you can buy the ticket for the whole event, but what there actually is, there is actually a free ticket which will give you access to the awards ceremony, but also any roundtables which are happening, and there are some roundtables happening tomorrow, and one of those myself and Marek are on, which is talking about IFC. So there is access there to some of the sessions if you want to know a bit more, or also want to hear about the awards from those who've actually submitted them. So just to wrap it up there, like I said, if you want to get in touch, these are the methods. You know, we've got an email address. So yeah, really, if there's anything that you think that, you know, we need to be looking at, the committee is involved in all sorts of initiatives which are looking at IFC implementation. And I know there's also hopefully going to be some guidance produced over the next few years as well. So if there's anything in particular that you want in that, again, let us know. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there and say thank you to all the attendees and see you next time.